Hello, everybody. I am your androgynous android late night DJ Caster. How's it going? How on, party people? Happy New Year to all the people out there, which dates this video horribly, but that's perfectly fine. I hope you've all had an excellent winter break, a good Christmas and all that. I've been recentering myself, getting myself back together in good working order again, and now we're back into January. I was like, oh, I really want to go kick back in on doing lots of exciting City of Espers stuff on air. And I don't think I've done a formal discussion of the book as the pre-release text on air yet. So I really wanted to go and do that for everybody today. Hey! How's it going? George, what's good? Yes. So, as the... thank you, Dex. I also welcome Dex. How's it going? Have you been good, Dex? Let me start from the top. Okay. For the people who do not know, if you don't know me from Adam at all, I'll run that by you first. As said, androgynous android late night DJ, but also tabletop RPG streamer, designer, voice actor, and general internet ne'er-do-well. I've released a number of tabletop RPGs over the last 7 or so years, most of them self-published. But over the last now 2 years, I have been working on what I would call my big game, capital B, capital G, City of Espers, which is, as you can see from the graphic we have here, a street-level psychics tabletop RPG. It was many different things. I'm also going to adjust my volume a little bit. Give me a second. Take that. I should no longer be drowned out by the music as much. There we go. Do let me know if the audio needs wiggling at any point. Yes, over the last 2 years, have been working on this game. And part of the process of working on this game was approaching a publisher with it, which is not an easy thing to do, whether it's tabletop RPGs or literature. Working and getting a publisher to get your book physically published is quite difficult. But fortunately, I struck up a relationship with 3 Cell Studios with George, who is in the chat right now. Hi, hello. And he was very excited to go and work with me to make this game real, I say. And so over all of 2025, we have been working very, very hard in terms of changing the early manuscript of it, working with a wide variety of different artists, and putting all together all the bits and pieces that was needed for a pre-release of the rules. So these rules are actually available for everybody to go and check out and play right now. You can go and obtain this game for pay what you want on the internet. Let me go and summon that. It is in the chat doobly-doo, right there. I'm also going to go and pin it so people can check it out as we go. We're going to keep that pinned. Okay, marvelous. Yes, you can go and grab a copy of City of Espers by clicking that link right there. So yes, we released the pre-release rules in December. We had the text complete in the little promotional printing of the book, which I have physically with me. Very, very exciting. So we could show it off at a number of conventions in the UK in November. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, this game I'm really excited about and I think is very rich and interesting and cool. But one of the best ways to learn about what people are expecting in the wider text, and also as a way to playtest it, is to kind of get the rules out there to get people excited, to get people playing it. And so this is what we have here. So over the next little bit, we're just going to be going through the PDF as it stands, highlighting some of the bits and pieces that it shows, highlighting some of the behind the scenes stuff. I have a little bit of a presentation to show you of some of the concept art and other bits and pieces that went into making it in its early stages. And there will also be some room for some Q&A. So if you have any burning questions about the game, what it was like in terms of putting it together, or what might be in the full release of the game, which will be crowdfunding next September, now is your opportunity to think on those questions and to ask me, and I will be able to answer to the best of my ability. let's get into it. So, getting into it, the first thing is, as Dex said, what an astounding cover. I love this cover so much. One of the really, really exciting bits and pieces of being able to work with a publisher is having an art budget. All of my previous games I illustrated myself. I'm not necessarily a stellar illustrator. I'm learning, I'm getting there. But, you know, being able to actually work with artists has been very, very cool. And 3 Sales was like, hey, what artists would you like on the project? And like, I can just choose. Okay, amazing. And then I took some pretty big swings, in fact, and basically pretty much everybody that we approached said yes, which was this cover is designed by Isa Happyfield. Isa Happyfield is no stranger to tabletop RPGs. He's previously done a bunch of illustration work for the Son of Oak games. They do the City of Mist series, so he has done all of the art for Queers, which was his comic series / manga that was turned into a tabletop RPG. And then from then, he also did all of the lead illustration work on Metroscape Otherverse, or Metro Otherscape, rather. I should get the name of the game right. And I really love his super vibrant anime styling. He's clearly very fashion conscious in how he does character designs and so on and so forth. So it's like, let's get this boy on here. Fun thing, the publisher, George, is not necessarily super inclined to the anime aesthetic, which he's allowed to be. Fair, but it meant that there was a little bit of convincing required for this particular art style to kind of like sit in a world where both I and he was happy with. And then once we got there, especially once we kind of got into the backgrounds and bits and pieces like that, and just some general convincing of being like, no, don't worry. The audience is going to love it. The target audience for this game is going to go feral for this art style. And accurate, but now I couldn't imagine the cover looking any different. Absolutely. I say this not as an indictment on either of our character, but you know, everybody who goes into a creative project has a vision in mind, and in those early stages you might not necessarily align on the same vision, but the way that we kind of came together in both getting something that felt like the poster of a very high budget anime movie, but also still with a bit of moodiness and a bit of grittiness that kind of appears in a lot of 3 Cell Studios' other game works, I think has been a nice harmonization. Yes. So scrolling through, we're gonna out a bit so we can actually get the full spread. That should be able to see a lot of this. Yes. So, as you can see, a pretty big range of artists who are doing illustration across this, because this game is one that I would say is very much fueled by the vibrant style and melodrama that you see in comics and anime. I really wanted to make sure that I had comics and manga artists who I knew from various conventions directly involved in the process. So yes, we'll do a little bit of box text reading, because a lot of this is trying to kind of get a vibe really early. For those who have seen my other tabletop RPGs, they're all quite small and quite compact, and I, as a games writer, normally am somebody who gives the theme and the setting and the theme and the trappings and the tone, but not necessarily the setting. I'm always an advocate of making a setting alongside your players when doing long-form tabletop RPGs. So this is a bigger book project, made me really think quite hard about giving the vibe of the location of this game. There is a canon location where this game takes place, and you've got to be able to kind of hit that tone really early, but also not so hard and so insistent that it's difficult to get to the important bits and pieces. Hi Cruising, Happy New Year, how's it going? Your new home, Zena City, the melting pot for metaphysics. Are you one of the ever-growing number that have awoken to startling psychic powers? Has pyrokinesis gotten your personal life out of control? Looking to meet a community of people that understand your unique needs? Then Zena City welcomes you with open arms. For centuries, we've prized ourselves as a multicultural hub of music, food, art, and fashion, and now we are proud to reveal our official Esper Residence Initiative. Ever since psychics started to awaken across the world, Espers have been making their way to our fair city for a fresh start and a sense of belonging. Here, you don't need to keep your unique talents under wraps. Instead, find others with a shared vision and form a house. For those who have that superstar factor, channel your psychic abilities into thrilling Esper battles and compete with other houses for global acclaim. We at the House of Oracle are here to document your entire journey. Get in touch with the Zena City Culture Board and see if Zena City is in your future. No clairvoyance necessary. Maybe we'll see you at the Palace Stadium. Don't stress, wear your best, and put your talents to the test. The streets are calling. So yes, City of Espers is a game that takes place in Zena City. Zena City is a place that could be functionally anywhere in the world, but in the modern day, in a world where psychics awoke across the world 40 years ago to current day. And, you know, in a world where even people will draw lines in the sand and form prejudice over differences in people that absolutely do not matter, when people with pyrokinesis and the ability to teleport now exist as well, the world may not welcome them with open. So a lot of them had to move away from their previous families, from their previous homes, and find somewhere new, a bit safer, a bit more where there could be a community, which Zena City is set to be. You are, as players, all members of a house. You are all psychics, you are all espers. You have kind of formed together with a like-minded goal, and the game lets you kind of explore the nature of forming a community, the trials and tribulations around doing that, what it means to protect the people that you care about, and most likely getting to very cool anime battles with rival houses. One of the big personal selling points of this game, enough that I put really early on in this manuscript here, where it's on the first page of actual information. This was initially designed as a hybrid tabletop RPG and miniature tactics game. I was really thinking about the likes of how Morkborg and Forbidden Psalm are separately a tabletop RPG and a miniature skirmish game that use the exact same rules, and what a game could be like. What a war game could be like if it wasn't about people like how do I put it? Space Marines who are angry and covered in slime, or fantasy soldiers who are sad and covered in mud, which are like the two genres of miniature war game. And I was like, what if there was a gay war game where being fashionable mattered, and being stylish and full of energy and verve was something that was encouraged? And that initial premise really did make me take some big swings. It is no longer directly a miniature war game anymore, because my heart generally belongs with the tabletop RPG sphere. But a lot of that inspiration of miniature games and having tactics in action sequences rather than being a fully narrative system really is part of the spine of this game, I would say. Something with a little more optimistic in its setting and tone. Yes, exactly. I would say that in general, in queer art spaces, there is a call for pieces of media and storytelling that is about queer joy. We're also moving through a little bit of a renaissance of queer horror, but still. And I really wanted to kind of have a example. I mean, all of my games are pretty darn queer, I would say, textually, even if they aren't about who is kissing who. And I really wanted that extend to this game as well. So being able to be about queer themes, but in a way where you don't need to engage with that so directly, you will be engaging with it because it's about community and finding joy in community in a world that could potentially be a little hostile. Anyway, also some of the things you'll need is a, rather than dice, you need a 52 card poker deck, which we'll get into in a little So this is as highlighted is the kind of like pre-release version of the rules. This is our early version of some of the experimental layouts of this done by George, the publisher. We're going to be making some changes about bits and pieces to make sure that there's some art earlier on, and I need to do some editing, which I have been doing since the start of this year, to kind of make some parts of the text less dense. So the final version of this is going to be a little bit more succinct and a little bit styled differently. But I'll give you a bit of a rundown of the world here. We're trying to kind of get a breakdown of what the world is like in as few pages as possible, and then kind of giving the bigger information near the back, which I prefer. As said, when we played this game, we are playing in the city of, or rather, we are playing in Zena City, modern metropolis that could be anywhere. It is your city that you live in, with the inspirations and history that you know, that you can source from and pull from your real world experience of what it's like living in an urban space and channel it into this game. That's very much encouraged. As said, all of the players are individual psychics, Espers, who are members of a house, people with a like-minded vision. Houses named like the traditional ballroom houses in Vogue culture. You could also consider them to be Necromunda style houses if you're nasty. All houses are led by a house leader, colloquially called a house mother or father. They are the people who are looked to for steering the house's direction, looking after its members and making the hard decision. Obviously, there are houses of all shapes and sizes and notoriety around Zena City. You may be starting out as a house that is not very well known or popular, but as you play, you may make a legacy for yourself as you tell story. It also means that some of the houses you'll encounter in this game are not necessarily especially altruistic or nice. They may be making some interesting decisions. They may be acting selfishly. They may be acting violently, and you might have to, as a table, as a group of house Espers yourselves, make some decisions on how to respond to that. One of the big factors of this game's setting is the idea of turf. As a group of psychics go through hardship together, or otherwise really resonate with each other, you get on each other's wavelength, really connect. All that psychic energy in one place can even resonate with the city itself, with your actual geography, and that will manifest into its own character. Your turf is your neighborhood, is your community. It is both the literal streets that your home base is on, and is also a metaphysical representation of your community, able to express itself to you, and you can communicate with it. In the full game, so from my understanding, Zena City is founded by Espers or draws a lot of Espers to it. Are there non-Espers in Zena City still? Absolutely, absolutely. I'll answer this now because it's relevant to the world setting bits and pieces, but also if I don't answer a question immediately, I may be ballparking it for some Q&A bits and pieces near the end. But yes, Zena City is an ordinary city, one that was historically considered to be a cultural melting pot before psychics appeared in the world, but they specifically, on a governmental level, have been making steps to invite Espers to live in it and form new lives. This does not necessarily mean that the entire politics or the entire residents of Zena are down with the idea of a larger number of immigrants, or B, psychic powers in general, and that can be one of the kind of like factors of storytelling you might want to explore. But yes, the turf is one of the things that got really excited 3 Sales as a publisher. The idea that you can really get the pulse of your community and understand what ails it, and interact with your community in both a very literal, speaking to the people and helping them, but also on a metaphysical, like the streets can tell you what is wrong, and then you kind of go and answer that call on both levels. I really want, in general, on urban fantasy games, to have the city be a character in the narrative, even if they are not necessarily talking. How you as players feel about the city you live in is so important to making urban fantasy as a genre work, and turf narratively and mechanically reinforces the idea that players should engage with their locality and not just what their like mission of the day is. So it's like one of the big pillars of what this game is. And then there's also the concept of Esper battles. One of the fun things I really wanted to explore with this game is because Espers are a community unto themselves, and as a community that have moved to a new location, have started forming a culture unto themselves as they've been interacting. And one of those facets of that culture is Esper battling. After all, when you have superpowers, you probably want to be able to keep using them in a way that is encouraged and fun and friendly. If you happen to have a power that might be dangerous or destructive, being able to find a non-damaging way to channel that power, to be able to learn to get it under control and to be able to let off steam is important. In real life, we have communities of things like martial arts and sports groups that use physical exercise, activity, and competition to really foster a community and help with things like building confidence and anger management and discipline. So Esper battles are that, but they're also like Splatoon, and they're also like Windjammers, and they're also like Pokemon battles, you know? It's fun and silly and vibrant and a way of being able to do action and combat sequences where there are low stakes, because, hey, we want to be able to tell those kind of stories as well. And in fact, telling stories in Xena City, this section is really about kind of highlighting the tone. Lots of tabletop RPG, really great world building. Thank you very much. I've had a long amount of time to think about it, and there's been lots of bits and pieces where I've gone like, do I need to dedicate sections of this book to talking about its governmental policy? The number of times that I changed when Espers came into the world, like how long ago from quote-unquote present day of the players, just how many people in the world, like percentage-wise, became Espers, and I'm still not sure about that last one, actually. I really want to operate in a subtext is for cowards kind of way and make it to be a rough estimate to the number of like trans people that exist in the world, because yeah, but that might be more actually than the numbers that would kind of make sense. Who knows? Interesting stuff. But yes, City of Espers, I really wanted to have a section of it. Not doing a what is an RPG, because lots of tabletop RPG books have that, and at this point I think it is relatively well-trodden territory. I kind of doubt that somebody who's never played a tabletop RPG before will play this game specifically. It would be wild if they did. I would love it if they did, but it would be unlikely. So I think a lot of the people coming to this would already know what a tabletop RPG is, but they might be coming in with some preconceptions about the RPGs they play a lot. This game is in so many ways not Dungeons and Dragons, and going in to play this game like Dungeons and Dragons, or even going in to play this game like Monster of the Week, might mean that you gloss over some of the things that are big highlights of the book. So I really wanted to kind of have these like tenets in here. As a player, thinking about dreaming big and taking chances, looking beyond the binary, overcoming odds with tactics and teamwork, really thinking about why you care about your house, and really thinking about why you care about your city. And then on the Game Master side of things, really letting character goals guide you, rewarding creative use of the psychic abilities that the players have. I really wanted the abilities in this game to be ones that had specific purposes, so people who are tactics minded know what these abilities do and can get active use out of them, but also to be really flexible and let people be creative with their powers and be rewarded for it. Thinking about the fact that no community is completely peaceful, even if this is a positive, vibrant game, there is always going to be some friction, some discontent, some conflict. It does not necessarily have to be a violent conflict, but it is there. This is all about taking the mundane and making it weird. City of Zena City is your city, your literal city that you live in now. I want you to be able to pull on those experiences that you know about where you live and then channel it into your playing of the game. Of course, there are people that live in the countryside and don't like the city at all and don't like urban life. I would be actually really fascinated for somebody who is not really an urbanite to play this game and see how they feel about it. And then also looking at the competition side of things, sports camaraderie meets anime action. This is an anime with infinite budget because it's all within our minds, so we can take really big swings about narrating scenes and really going for broke. So with all of that kind of like tone setting and typesetting out of the way, the basics of this game, which I won't dwell too much on in the mechanics. We'll highlight the basics for those who have never seen this game before and can get the rundown of how it works, but we're not going to read this page by page. To basically put it simply, City of Espers is a game that uses a deck of poker cards instead of dice. Love using games with accessible tools. Most people have access to 6-sided dice. Fewer people have access to D12s unless they're already specifically in a type of game world, right? But most people do actually own a deck of playing cards, and if they don't, getting hold of one is actually pretty easy to do. In some ways, easier than getting hold of 6-sided dice, depending on where you are. So yes, I really like decks of cards as a resolution mechanic because the number of outcomes they have is finite. Assuming there is a discard pile, when you play a card, it is not going to come up again until all of the cards are exhausted. So not only does it mean that you can think about what is happening in the future as you continue to play the game and you've seen the cards as they're played, you can start to make really strong guesses about what is left still to be played. You as players in this game get to have a little bit of psychic clairvoyance yourself, which is a bit of tying of like theming to mechanics that I really enjoy about this game. But also, there's a bit of a comic cycle with the idea of there being a set number of outcomes. You know, you can play a game that uses dice and roll like butt cheeks the entire session. And that can be fine and that can be fun. There are lots of games where failing is an interesting and cool thing, actually. But you can get the same kind of results often. When you are playing with a deck of cards, you are guaranteed to have both high and low points. If you have a hand of bad cards, you will eventually have a hand of good cards. If you have a hand of good cards, you best make use of them now because your next hand may not be so good. Being able to kind of hedge your bets and think about getting the best out of your good and bad fortune is one of the big pieces of this game. So, all players have a hand of 5 cards, and to do something in this game, the GM gives generally a target number for a character to meet or beat, and you do that by playing a card from your hand, looking at the value of it and trying to match or exceed the target number. So, a normal check in this game is around 8. So you'd be playing a card from your hand that is 8 or higher to clear the check. That would be quite difficult without modifiers, which is why you also add some stats, some attributes, which we'll be looking at here. All Espers have 4 main attributes. I love the art here done by Jess Herron. Jess Herron is an excellent webcomic artist who does the comic called Midnight Furies, which is about superpowered basketball played in the midnight hour, and was a direct inspiration for this game's premise at all. So the fact that she was available to actually do artwork for this game is so goddamn cool. I'm so excited. I was so stoked when it turned out that she was available to work on this, and what excellent artwork that she's done to kind of represent the different main attributes in this game. There is burn, creativity and accuracy, see clearly and always hit your mark, which is kind of like your ranged attribute. You have flow, flexibility and athleticism, conducting your body like an orchestra. You have vault, might and insight, think quickly and collide fiercely, and hold, focus and resolve, keep your cool amongst the chaos. So your Esper is going to have numbers in these 4 attributes ranging between 1 and 4, and when you do a check, you will usually be adding one of these 4 attributes to the check. So if you have a vault of 3, that difficulty 8 of a normal check, you only need to play a 5 or higher. If you of 3, adding that to the 5 to make 8, so on and so forth. In a similar fashion, when you are playing a check against somebody else, where both you and another person are playing cards at the same time to see who gets the higher result, the tie goes to attacker, because we like to be able to move the game along quickly. We don't want to stale things out. But also, there is also that degree of like thinking about what somebody might have in. Moving on a little bit, scrolling on a little bit, we are going into a little bit of the character creation stuff. Also, I'm going to go and take a sip of water. Agua. So, when making characters in City of Espers, it's not just the person. You are also thinking about the house that the person belongs to. As I said earlier, all of the players are members of a house. And so it behooves you all as a table to create your house together. You're going to make around the table, decide what the history of your house is. Now I know, even as somebody who likes doing lots of improv in games, that trying to be creative with the 0 prompts, especially even with multiple people at a table, is a nightmare. So I really wanted to make sure that I had some guidelines to kind of help people along the path of creating a house. And all houses also have a vibe. The vibe is essentially the like aesthetic, the vision that the house has. If you think about any kind of like show or game with lots of different themed teams in them, how you can tell those teams apart is their vibe. If you've ever seen the 80s movie, The Warriors, how all of the different gangs in that have matching outfits that they wear together. If you think about any of the different crews in Jet Set Radio or Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, that is their vibe. The way that they all dress, the way that they express themselves. So I have a bunch of questions here that help a table who might, from the bat, be like, I don't know where to start. Start thinking about the history of their vibe and their house before they even get into character. So it's like, what colors does the house wear? Do they listen to genres of music? Do they have shared hobbies? What would the emblem of the house look like? And then thinking about the history of the house itself. How old is it? Who founded it? What does the base of operations look like? What are their values? What do they praise or forbid? Has there been something that they've been struggling with lately, which was a newer addition actually to this to kind of add some spice and get people thinking about conflict. Houses also have house directives. This is a game in the kind of milieu of Blades in the Dark and things like that, where gaining experience, and Gangs of Titan City, if you've played that, where gaining experience is very much informed by specific goals you as players set, and it is split in half. You have 4 directives, as your player character will be seeing the other half later. 2 of them are your house directives. Everybody who's in a house has these directives, which means all of the players share these directives and would be most of the time working together to trying and achieving them as a group. Having some examples here. House directives are designed to be things that would take a little while to complete and are an active effort to do. You may set story arcs of your game behind directives. And then, on the other side of things, is actually making your Esper. Now that you've got your house, and it's this way around specifically, when you kind of know what the main values of a group are, it is easier to then think of a person that would be in that group. It is I would say it's a point that's relatively philosophical or ephemeral, like people will think about this differently, but I find that a big friction that can come up with some character generation in games, especially for groups where people are inclined to build their character away from everybody else, is that everybody will have very disparate ideas of what they want their character to be. And then you come together and have to really jump through hoops in terms of thinking about why these characters would be interacting with each other, which is something I specifically wanted to avoid. I really wanted to make sure that we don't have to do the you all meet in the tavern. So by thinking about the connecting influence of the house and then doing your characters, I figured was a much stronger way of getting everybody to be aligned nice and early. This is well, the words. Apologies. When it comes to the kind of like character rules and this sort of thing, and publisher and the publisher kind of agrees with me on this, is that artwork is beautiful and fabulous, and there's lots of very, very beautiful art that we'll be looking at in a little bit. But when it comes to the kind of like nitty gritty parts of the rules, especially for this pre-release version of the rules, which are a bit more condensed, it is lighter on art. But do not worry, it is not all just pages of just text. I really wanted the character building to be quite flexible and Lego buildy. While I'm not necessarily one for super crunchy tabletop RPGs, I'm not about that GURPS or that traveler life. I do enjoy being able to take disparate, interesting parts that a game gives me and then building something flavorful. So to allow that, rather than having an inventory in this game with discrete items that are set, you build your signature items, your gear. You decide whether it's melee, ranged, or a gadget. There are indeed. We're going to be expanding a little bit on the gear tags in a way that gives it some breathing room, and also some like example gear items that can be placed in it. So once you've chosen what style of gear you have, you can also give it some tags. These tags are properties that both give you an impression of what it would logically be doing, but also giving it a practical thing that it can do in a tactical sense. You can use it in tactical sequences. So for example, if your gear is musical, you know that it's going to be able to play music. Wonderful. But that could be anything. I've had in the like demo games that we've played, one person wanted a pair of rollerblades. Rollerblades are a very popular piece of gear in this game, I'm not surprised. And they wanted to put the musical tag on the rollerblades, like the rollerblades had speakers in them, and I was like, yes, absolutely, you could absolutely do that. There is one player wanted a gigantic mic stand that they carried around with them, and it was oversized so that they put on their back like a Cloud Strife Buster Sword, so you can really kind of go big, literally or figuratively, with the way that your gear is. It can be a little anime ridiculous as a treat. And then there are our psychic abilities, the really big bit of this game, the really interesting bits of ability rating. I think is a lot of the meat of the character building experience. Sip of water, hang on. So yes, psychic abilities, after all, you are all psychics, so being able to have a psychic ability is going to be one of the really big points of the game. Every Esper has at least one. If you generate your character with very low stats, you can have two. And there is a long list of psychic abilities to pick from. To use the psychic ability, each ability comes with a suit and value that it is tied to, and you play a card from your hand that matches the suit and is of that value or higher. So, for example, the diamond's ability precognition is a value of 3, so you can play a 3 of diamonds, a 5 of diamonds, a king of diamonds. Any of those, you'll be able to use precognition. What I was saying earlier about the kind of idea of flexibility and permissiveness for creative abilities of stuff, I really do love having that in this kind of thing as well. So you can use your abilities in ways that the rules text does not directly state, as long as the GM is like, yeah, makes sense, you'd be able to do that. Want to avoid those circumstances where you have the spell Ray of Frost and it doesn't say that you can freeze a puddle to slip someone up, and so you can't use it that way. Frustrating. We don't want to do that. Something that has been added, a really, really fresh addition to the pre-release version PDF that people have access to, is, and this came around from playtesting, is that sometimes, because, you know, there are only so many jacks and queens that you have, deciding on when you want to use your big ability, or just not getting lucky enough to draw into a card that would let you use an ability, had people feeling a little blue. So we added a new mechanic about being able to push yourself. Basically, if you have the right suit but the value is too low, you can play an additional card to make up to the total value. So you can play 2 cards to get yourself up to a jack or a king, which is great. That can be very powerful, but you also deal yourself damage by doing so. And you can have your stamina level can be quite low, so you don't want to do that too many times. But if you really, really want to use the ability in a pinch, you can do it that way. Also, really encouraging people to be able to use their ability for flavor. I would not dream of having somebody who has cryokinesis not be able to frozone themselves everywhere at all times. Like, you'd want to. Like, if you had the ability to use psychokinesis and move things with your mind, you would float everywhere. And I don't want to make people play a card from their hand just to say that they float real cool. So using psychic abilities for flavor is entirely. There is also, as we see here, the idea of having summons. You know, your persona, your JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, being able to summon a construct that can fight alongside of or instead of you is definitely one of the abilities I wanted to have in this game. And to add a little bit of kind of tinkering and customization for people who really want it, you can build your mental construct ally as essentially an additional character, so you can customize it in a really fine-tuned way. I really wanted that to be also present in the version game. There will be unique abilities that mental constructs can get that psychics cannot. So if you really want to be able to do something quite unique that nobody else can do, you might want to take summoning as one of your psychic abilities. And rounding up bits and pieces, as I said previously, there are personal directives that go alongside the house directives. These are the things that you gain EXP for. So being able to set yourself goals that you want to do, but also that you're excited to do, is really useful. Excuse me. Is really useful for both yourself and the GM to organize scenarios that really get to dig into what your character and what you as a player would be excited to do. Again, in the full version of this game, there is going to be rules around what happens if you don't achieve your directives very often. What happens if you try to achieve big directives and they fail repeatedly? There is a celebration / crisis mechanic where if you succeed in a directive a lot, it kind of in a way levels up or gives you more experience, and you get to kind of really raise yourself up in a way that boosts your ability to improve yourself. But failing them can create a crisis moment that essentially signifies to the GM that your directives are eating away at your character and they are feeling some type of way about it, as a prompt to then have that be a main thrust of an upcoming a session or scenario. And then on the other side of that, you can make really big changes to yourself after going through a character crisis. Oh, thank you very much, Raccoons. I really appreciate it. This is a game I've worked on for a very long time, and have been kind of tweaking in bits and places and really trying to think about how it can reach and appeal to a really wide number of people who want to tell this kind of game. So I'm glad that people think it's neat. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Last thing before we go into some of the next bits and pieces of the next section and looking at some of the psychic abilities we have, is making miniatures of your Esper. I said earlier that I initially envisioned this to be a bit of a war game, and there's which obviously it's now fully tabletop RPG, but the soul still burns. Yes, making miniatures of your Esper is something to champion. I don't know if folks here are miniature painters. I'd love a good creative endeavor. Absolutely. I don't know if many of you out there are miniature painters, but there is something quite witchcrafty, I would say, quite about painting and spending a long amount of time crafting a small totem to represent you. I find that fascinating. And it's not like this game is something that I want to bar off from people who can't or don't like miniature painting. You can use anything to represent your character. You can use any sort of totem, any sort of trinket. You could use a Lego minifigure. You could use a Nintendo amiibo. You could use a shiny button. It doesn't matter as long as there's a way that you can represent you. But the idea that the table of players who are all playing together to create their Esper miniatures together and really think about, say, when you built your house, you set its color scheme and its vibe, and you can all paint your miniatures in that color scheme and that vibe together alongside each other, which I think is a really warming experience. I don't know how many people have had the delight of being able to paint miniatures with friends instead of at home on their own. And I really wanted this game to be an encouragement of that. One of the bits of promo, well, you can see here as part of the Kickstarter in September, there will be a line of miniatures that will be available as a backer reward for you to 3D print, which is, I think, very cool, and you should all keep your eyes peeled for that. But also, in the lead up to that, I'm going to be trying to do some community events around miniature painting and like character design, of encouraging people to design their own Espers or paint their own Espers, and what that might look like, and have a little bit of an art jam around that. So if you are a miniature painter out there in chat, if you like drawing an OC and you want to draw a cool street psychic, then keep your eyes peeled, because I'll be running events about that, running jams about that. A bit of a whistle-stop tour through the psychic ability. So earlier I said I really wanted these abilities to have value both narratively and mechanically. So I've written all of these abilities to have both what I've pithily called a story side and a skirmish side. You can use both of these abilities at any point, anywhere in the narrative, but it's a good indicator that you can get both drama and tactics out of each of these. And I would say, actually, that writing the psychic abilities has been something that has been a joy to do. I really enjoy designing a unique and flavorful ability. I think ability writing is one of the more exciting parts of like long-form RPG text writing. But also, I am very aware that people will want to make characters that mirror existing pop culture entities, right? Like, you know, when you play... Oh gosh. If you play Scum and Villainy, then really the game wants you to think of Star Wars characters and channel that Star Wars energy, so you may be inclined to make a character that is a riff on a canonical Star Wars character, and so as a result, they need to think of their ability writing that lets you do stuff like swing around a beam sword or force push people and things like that. So I'm here being like, okay, what kind of pop culture psychics are people really gonna want to be? And I'm like, oh, absolutely, people are gonna want to be Emma Frost from X-Men, and so it's not in this. It's not in the shorter list. The full list has way more psychic abilities than here. I think we're hovering around 7 or 8 per suit. Nice to know what you can use for fighting or fucking around. Yes, exactly. You don't want to be in the circumstance where you pick an ability and then it has no combat purpose and you go like, oh, it's just useless half the time or something like that. So there's always something that you can do with it. I know that people will want to be Mob from Mob Psycho 100, which is probably the better example here. Where's Tension Burst? Yes, Tension Burst is specifically written to be a Mob Psycho 100 send up, where the closer you are to McFucking losing it, the more powerful you get. Needs to be in there. Oh, I want to be a character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's what summoning is for, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of me thinking around what the big popular kind of like psychic abilities are. And there was a bit where I was agonizing over what stuff I might have missed. Which, chat, if you've thought of a type of pop culture psychic, it'd be like, could they be in this game? Challenge me. Let me know of a pop culture psychic and what their psychic ability is, and I'll be able to tell you whether there's an ability that exists that lets you do that. But there was a bit where I was going through, is shapeshifting feasible as a psychic ability? Like, at what point does a psychic ability become like an X-Men style mutant power, or just literally like a superhero superpower and doesn't really have much to do about the mind at all? Like, moving and shaping things with your mind makes sense, so pyrokinesis, absolutely. But is turning into a werewolf a psychic ability? I'm coming into this with little info and late to the presentation. What's the general vibes of your tabletop RPG? Modern sci-fi psychic anime kind of feeling. Hey, you're on it on the money, Through Your Kids. Absolutely, it is like a modern day urban fantasy deal where you play as a group of psychics that have moved from their previous communities to a new one to make a found family to kind of navigate this city together and understand what it means to connect with your community and protect the people you really care about. So it's like really vibrant anime shonen battles, or really considered like depth nature of like queer sociality. Like, it could be both and either at the same time. Get you a game that can do both. Moving on a little bit, talking a little bit about turf in bigger detail. There's definitely this section is much expanded in the full version of the text, but we wanted to kind of just have a little bit of a snippet, a souchon of the turf. That is one of the really big parts of this game. Thematically, is psychics being able to resonate with their locality, with their community, with the streets itself. Oh yes, TURF, I do have to say every time. We're a big queer community in this place. It's definitely TURF, fuck turfs with an E, absolutely not. Goodness. Sheila, good evening. What a wonderful time for you to arrive, and a good sentiment, I would say. But yes,
either way, we're more than happy to
thank you
have you.
very much for the follow, for Raccoons. You're locked into the channel. Thank you for being another listener. Yes, the turf manifests when a group of psychics who have all gone through something difficult or complicated together and resonate with each other also have their locality resonate with them, and it awakens into turf. It becomes a character unto itself. Hey, you know, absolutely. I appreciate more queer allies on twitch.tv. It's needed. And this was, as I've said earlier before, but I'll repeat because it's an important detail. One of the things about urban fantasy games in general that I think should always be asked and could stood to be asked more is, how is the city a character in your urban fantasy game? You know, So you're a vampire. You're in the Vampire the Masquerade circumstance, and it's all like about the nightclubs and so on and so forth, and the sexy parties where you can feed on people, and that's great. Why in Seattle? You could do that literally anywhere in the world. What is it about the community that you're in now that has you here? And if you hate the city you're in, that's great too. Why haven't you left? Is one of those things that is a kind of question that really doesn't get asked enough. And I think having the neighborhood be a literal character that can express itself to you is one of those ways you can really help fuel that style of storytelling. Right down to the fact that Turf Communion is and because Seattle is wet, grey, and miserable, I mean, you know, it is a thematic tie to a tonal ply for like a vampire thing. I mean, you know, like the idea of a Vampire the Masquerade in somewhere like really like grim northern, like Skegness by night would be really funny. Ooh, the dark, sexy vampires in Clacton-on-Sea. Anyway, yes, Vampire the Masquerade in Bolton. Let's go. Absolutely. But yes. Really putting mechanics into the theme. You can actually commune with your turf, and there's a mechanic around it where you can play a card from your hand when you're in a place to communicate with your neighborhood. And the suit matters in terms of the way that the turf will answer. And the value of the card gives the clarity of the answer. I find this to be a very cool magic trick for GMing, actually. It's a kind of mechanic that I tend to put in games where players can ask the GM a question and the GM can respond truthfully, but also it gives the GM the ability to weave in wider information that the party needs to know without being directly asked. The turf is like its own psychic entity. Exactly that. Yes. And being able to obviously like answer a question off the dome can be a bit tricky. So having the suits specifically give like a mood, a mien of answer really helps to kind of like fuel the question. You know, like if you were communicating with your turf and asking the question, what is giving a sense of unease in the dog park, and then you play clubs where it's about passion and creativity and experimentation, is going to give a different answer to when you're playing it with spades about logic, planning, and efficiency. And the information at its core might be the same, but the way that you answer that and the way that you steer players to kind of explore that will vary quite well, depending on the suit that you're in the full version of the game. There is a whole bunch of questions in the same way that you can design your house's vibe and things like that. There are a bunch of questions for being able to build a turf together, but for this pre-release guide, we give a couple of examples of what a turf can be. And it can be like an invisible panther that always feels like it's stalking you with like hunting eyes and teeth, but you can never see it. It could be a disembodied voice on the radio and always turns on the speakers in your home base to play music that is thematically fitting the circumstances that you're in. It could even actually manifest as a person you can see and talk to that moves around your neighborhood in a very mysterious, cryptid-like way. You can get really, really wild with what the turf can manifest as. To talk about some of the other like turfs that people have come up with before. Actually, the Apex and the DJ have separately come up in sessions that I have played already, but also there has been stuff like, oh, there is a phone booth, like the only phone booth that still works, like a payphone. And it calls you on that like it's a fixer giving you a mission. Or it can be like an old lady who is like always sitting on like a rocking chair on a porch in the suburbs, and you can just talk to her and she can bake cookies for you. You really should not eat the cookies unless you've done like a Fey pact like favor with her. Like you could get real experimental. One of the questions which I'll give now is like, what is your turf's true name? And that wording specifically, true name, like Fey style, it was such a way of getting people's brains buzzing about how they interact with their turf as a character. It's not just like, oh, it's the name of my neighborhood, like it has a true name. Another sip of water. Okay. Action grids, yes. This game has both generally narrative sequences, but if you'd like to, where timing and position is important, action sequences can be used rather than having a Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder style 5-foot square grid map, or being concerned with physical terrain that you put on your table, which the earliest version of this game did have. We've really simplified it down into the action grid. The action grid, as we see here, could represent a really wide number of things. Each zone is basically part of the scene to give a loose interpretation of what is close and what is far away. So an action grid can be, an action sequence can be anything from a car chase to a bare knuckle brawl in the street, to exploring the train tracks and the subway underneath your neighborhood, trying to find something hidden. It can be all sorts of bits and pieces. If you've ever played Fate as a tabletop RPG and how that game has zones, that is a very, very strong way of thinking about action grids. There are also the ability to have end zones. If the 3x3 is too small and you need to have a way to start or finish an area, you can also add an optional end zone as well. We won't dwell too much about this, but essentially in action sequences, then it kind of moves into what you'd expect in terms of turn order and combat style stuff. You have two actions in your turn, which you can not do the same thing twice. So it's about stuff like moving and using gear, using your psychic ability, and so on and so forth. You can use them in any order. If you have two melee gear, you can use one and then the other, so you can dual wield if you wanna. There's all those kind of options available to you, and you can also think about in terms of we'll skipped over this a little bit, but by default, there is what you'd call popcorn initiative with turn taking. You get to choose who is next in the turn order. That can be an ally or the enemy, but hey, at the end of a turn, they get to decide who goes first. So letting all of the enemies just go in a row can be very dangerous. You've got to think carefully about that kind of thing. But if you really want to get super tactical about it, there is even an alternating turn rules, like you're playing a skirmish game where you activate and move one character, then the opponent does. If you're playing a sports match like Esper Ball, you may be able to. No, I can't remember who told me the term popcorn initiative. I think it might have been the Stabbiness, a tabletop RPG network, but I really like describing it that way, where it's it's not random, it's semi-random, it's controlled but also chaotic. But yes, we've that's basically all that. No worries. You've been asking some really, really good questions, and I'm glad that this has all been intriguing to you. I said earlier this stream that I would not expect this to be somebody's first tabletop RPG, which is why I've foregone a section that says, what is a tabletop RPG? Because if you've got this game in your hands, you probably already know. But that aside, I would not necessarily say that this game is hard to learn. So much of the core rules are pretty easy to pick up and play. Once you get the general gist of doing things requires you to play a card from your hand and trying to meet or beat a number, you could do most things without having to kind of look stuff up, and then there's additional guidance from your GM. But with all of the rules out of the way, let's look at some of the houses of Zena City, shall we? Now this is great. I was so happy in terms of the kind of like list of artists to approach and being like, who do I know from the comic scene and the manga scene who would be down to do artwork for this? Oh sure, no, I'm glad it's. I need to play this with some additional beginners. I think they'll probably get into this. Shane Melise or Shanefaced, who has done a lot of UK conventions and does like an art book series called Road Knights. Like, what if roadmen from London, men who are on road, dressed like they came out of Dark Souls? The more menacing the postcode, the better the chicken shops kind of energy. Who does so much streetwear anyway. Wanted to have him on this, and so he's been doing a bunch of kind of like character spreads and some of the sceneries of this. So this is the House of Starfall, who are also on the main cover of the game. We're going to reveal that very briefly. This cover of the game, you know, you see some of the cast here, and they have been reinterpreted for this spread here. One of the things that Resales as a publisher was really keen on, and I'm keen on too, actually, is having a wide variety of artists rather than just one, but also having those artists draw the same characters and being able to kind of put their same energy into them. Like on the left, you can tell that that is Lyra, the main character of the Box Legendary, as it were, and she's wearing the same clothes, and you can tell it's her, but the vibe's different. It's kind of done in its own style, which I really Clute says, I might have missed it if you mentioned something like this, but from the vibes, I'm curious if you have team moves where people do an epic move together. Been reading some of the Daghart, and I like how they've described tag team roles and stuff in cooperation. Yes, interestingly enough, I do enjoy putting in teamwork checks and teamwork mechanics into games. Currently, because I'm trying to go through this interesting balance of having stuff that can account for what people would like, but without having too much bloat. There isn't a direct teamwork check right now. There was an earlier rule that I had about if multiple people wanted to work together to do something, they could both play a card from their hand, and the person taking point also adds their attribute. And if the value of it is over 15, they both take damage as they overexert themselves, which is probably something I want to reintroduce, to be honest. I think that mechanic is another way that people can succeed in something really large. Because I think there are some games that I've designed previously where like teamwork is always a better idea and is always statistically sensible to do. And, you know, some people would look at that and be like, oh, well, you know, that makes the scenarios too easy. Like working with each other really breaks the difficulty of something in half. I'm like, yes, that's the point. That's the message I'm trying to send here. And teamwork valuing in this is also very important and definitely on theme. You raise a really good point. But also I like the idea with the bit of the melodrama of the idea of people want to cooperate, but if they kind of overshoot it, can definitely cause some melodrama by dealing each other too much damage or putting themselves too much into it. I think that's a really like flavorful thing. So I should make a mental note to go now. Well, we're going to be doing a little bit of work on the manuscript after we finish going through this bit pieces. So make a mental note to add that in. But yes, we have this kind of intro spread of the House of Starfall, and then we get to see Lyra reinterpreted again. This one by Donald Kirby. These pieces are so sick, by the way. I love Donald Kirby's art style. Donald's, I've commissioned Donald for a handful of things of my own stuff before, but he's also done artwork for the RPG Hardwired Island. I just really like the big, thick and thin, chunky line art style. It's all very volumetric. It feels like there could be a plastic figurine of Lyra that looks like this. I really enjoy. And the way that he's done the flaming hair is different from everybody else as well. I'm like, great. So yeah, the House of Starfall is who I really wanted to be kind of like the face of this. If we wanted to kind of just have a straightforward example of what a house in City of Espers could be like, that's the House of Starfall. I think I might have said offhand, I think of them as the box legendaries, like in Pokemon. When you buy a Pokemon game, you see the legendary Pokemon of it on the cover, and you're like, oh, I get the vibe of this game because I've seen Kyogre. I want you to kind of like look at the cover of City of Espers and see Lyra on the front cover and be like, okay, I get it. And also, you know, in inside baseball story time, in manuscript preparation for this, because as I say, I've been working on this for about 2 years, Trench Crusade, like the miniature war game, is really picking up in popularity, and the lead designer of the game did a panel at a convention talking about how he does marketing and strategy for Trench Crusade in a way that is still to him ethical. And a lot of it was, I don't want to do marketing because marketing is really corporate and that's not really my values, which fair enough. But also he kind of highlighted how having a strong face character is really important in getting into people's heads. When they think about the game, they think about the character. So you can look this up separately, because I'm not going to go through I'm too lazy to go and find a piece of artwork of her. But one of the miniatures in Trench Crusade is of a character called the Artillery Witch, who is this clockwork demon with Elizabethan like head cones and a big smooth metal face with no expression, and she is like hovering an atom, like a World War I bomb in her hand, like it's free floating there. And even me looking at that game in general, being like, yes, this is it's a fantasy game where everybody's covered in mud and sad genre of war game. I'm not interested. I saw that character art specifically and went, oh my god, she whips. And true to that, the lead designer of Trench Crusade was like, after we showed her character, the amount of fan art we got of her, not all of it safe for work, but that's that audience, I suppose. But it really got into people's heads. Actually, I can understand when they draw pin-up art of her, when they would draw holding of her. It makes sense. I'm not gonna kick shame. But like the way that strong character design really sat in people's heads, even people who would not be interested in the game otherwise, I was like, that is phenomenal. I'm not so arrogant to say that a character design of mine would hit that space, but I definitely drew Lyra's outfit and styling and personality to be that she is a Korean kickboxer who's a massive fan of karaoke, and she can make her hair catch fire with a cool flame and flap dramatically like the character in like Die Buster. Gunbuster. And being like, yeah, I think that's a really strong character visual that people will get. And I think that's real. I think that's worked really well. Also, not for nothing, designed her before K-pop Demon Hunters came out, so I was ahead of the trend. Thank you. But yes, in addition to Lyra, we have profiles on the rest of the crew. I love these kooky kids. They are all great. I love them dearly. It was really fun thinking about giving everybody themed names across it, because you gotta like a cyberpunk crew where everybody has like cool handles. I really wanted to make sure that was here as the case as well. So all of the House of Starfall are named after constellations, and it meant that I really got to dig into some interesting ones like Horologium. What a constellation name. Hell yeah. You can tell I was really self-indulgent with Horologium's character design. But also like, oh, these are all people who really have a kind of rebellious vibe, that they all feel different from each other. I did actually have a lot of, it wasn't all easy in places. Actually, I'll respond to chat and then pick that back up. I mean, to be honest, this setting isn't the first I would pick, but you've really done a good job of making it interesting and colorful in a way that wants to try. Thank you very much. That actually genuinely really means a lot. I realize that a kind of like cheerful, energetic, sunny setting is not necessarily a popular genre for tabletop games, definitely not a popular genre for war games. There is some space of it in the tabletop RPG space though, because this is also really informed by the games that have come before it. It's informed by Girl by Moonlight, it's informed by City of Mist and those kind of bits and pieces. So this genre of urban fantasy has precedent, but it's not necessarily a popular genre. So the fact that it's not necessarily people's first port of call, but makes it really still is interesting to people, is great to hear. Thank you very much. But yes, in designing these characters and their premises, and me thinking about the kind of, to be honest, the from the ground floor diversity that I wanted in the game. Like, yes, as I say, subtext is for cowards. This is a very textually queer game, and that manifests in many different ways in both its mechanics and its kind of setting and story. But it's really, there are some people in the world who obviously are like, forced diversity. You've crammed in the pronouns and the genders and the skin tones in the last second to make it hit some checkboxes, and I'm not about that life. I'm like, I want to start thinking about this shit from early, because when you do it from jump, it's way easier to implement and feels more natural when you are going in with an open aim to have diversity in the characters from jump. And I was like, I really want one of the characters here to just be a fat trans woman, just a butch queen. I think those people who exist in the real world and are so cool and a really big part of the queer community don't get any visual representation in media at all, and if they do, it's not kind. So I'm like, I want her in my game. So I was like, Ursa, the mama bear, she's got the body type that she's always wanted, she's living her best life, and it's amazing. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then I immediately had to kind of contend. I put my marketing hat on, or my realism hat on, and was like, I have been on the internet long enough, especially on the era of like Twitter tabletop RPG discourse and queer tabletop RPG discourse on Twitter, where somebody would be like, well, is it a good idea, actually, that you've made your trans femme representative clocky? Like, I think you're actually being... Like, I had to like, oh god, are people going to think that I am being problematic by having the trans femme rep in it not be like the traditionally hyper femme, very skinny form of trans woman? And I'm so happy that everybody has responded so well to Ursa as a character design. Like, everybody who I've shown it to has been like, oh, Ursa's sick, I love her. And that genuinely makes me really happy. I'm so glad that my worst fears were not something that I had to contend with. Truly. Yes. We also, in addition to having these character profiles, we have a little bit of their locality, their turf, because the turf is a character unto itself, and we get to learn a little bit about their neighborhood as it looks like, and so on and so forth. I really wanted to make sure that that was visible too, so this spread has also been done by Shane Melise. And we've fitted in some room for talking about the nature of their turf, Constellation Chord. As I say, they all have a mysterious true name. Ain't no one coming for Ursa, she's number one, absolutely. And also a section of house gossip, you know, some story prompts that we can make sure it's like able to get games under the way. Please, more non-stereotypical trans rap. Exactly, truly. And the other big house that we demonstrated in the book is the House of Fantabulosa. I also love this artwork. This art came out so good. Like, when you look at this spread, you can see who of this cast is the house leader, but you can also see who wants to be the house leader. Like, oh, I'm the main character, actually. Like, the posing that Shane did for this cast is so good. So good. But yes, House of Fantabulosa, one of the things I really wanted in the game, because obviously these houses also get to represent different types of street culture. Like, this game is a reflection in parts on graffiti culture, on queer ballroom culture, on fashion and music, and so on and so forth. So I really wanted a house that is kind of inspired and informed by queer history. Getting vaguely Pose vibes, yes. Yeah, you get it. So queer British history is such a unique thing unto itself. The slang or the dialect Polari, which are the kind of like words that queer people as well as Roma and sailors and carnival performers all learnt to speak to each other in, so they could communicate about very specific things, usually about criminality, money, and sex, in a way where they could talk about all of that while keeping all the people who were on the outside fully unaware. It's always Dolly Tavada Fantabulosa, absolutely. You got the way that I'm trying to continue to use more Polari in my everyday today speech, just to kind of keep the vibe alive, right? This is my way of trying to keep a piece of Polari in people's mouths. So yeah, the House of Fantabulosa, we have a really just a high camp glittery version of a Cockney Pearly King. I love the way that Donald has done the embroidered pearls in the outfit. So sick, it's so plush. I love the quilting in the hem and on the cuffs. Oh, it's so good. Mr. Measures. I mean, you know, there's bits and pieces. Oh, okay. A piece of Polari that I can teach you up front. The term "I've got your number" in relatively modern usage is kind of currently set to mean "I understand what you're about" or "I've worked you out," which is still what it meant initially. But "I've got your number" is "I can tell that you are queer. I've got your number." And I love that. I love that so much. Whenever I play like video games or like board games with other people, and I'm like, oh, I'm working out what they're doing. I go like, I've got your number. Yes, I've worked out what you're doing. Well, also, I'm calling all of my gay friends gay to their faces in that kind of way, and we have a nice, jolly laugh about it. In a similar way, is he so? Is also in a very, very similar energy of that. Is he so? Is she so? But in addition to Mr. Measures, we have his son, Bijou Measures. I love the pearl embroidery, but it's like, ooh, I'm a punk. Ooh, I'm wearing my dad's fashion in a different way. Is she trade? Trade has always been rough trade, by the by. Like, people who are trade are not pretty. They are rugged. You got to make sure that you're calling the right person trade. It's not just that they're sexy, but they're a bit gruff. They're a bit rough. We have okay. Actually, a game for everybody, since people are in chat and are playing this with me. What do we think these... Doreen is not necessarily a piece of Polari. There is a history of Polari in general where men... We say this is a dialect spoken by gay men, but by modern standards, them being gay or them being men by modern standards would maybe be different. Some of them might have been trans, some of them might have been gender non-conforming, they might have been bisexual, they might have been trans. They didn't have the terminology for that at the time, but we blanketly call it a thing for gay men. And a lot of them, while they were cavorting in venues where people spoke Polari, would take on a pretty traditional femme name like a Doreen or a Victoria. So we've kept the tradition of that alive with Doreen here. But these other names here, Bijou, Ria Juja, and Ducky, are other pieces of Polari. Actually, I want to know what you think Ria Juja is in English. Our street magician here. We'll let chat mull over that as we scroll on a little bit more. What is Ria Juja as a name in English? What does that mean? And we also have a spread of the turf here for Fantabulosa. Nada Tavada, which is Polari for nothing to see, for the turf for the House of Fantabulosa. Despite their name is intentionally really low-key, they are at the moment really trying to protect themselves from hostile forces outside, so the turf itself has become quite insular. One of the things that I wanted to do with the house gossip for the House of Fantabulosa is to put more Polari in it, and that's probably going to be one of the things we're going to work on this evening. If you stick around and stay tuned, it won't be in the VOD, but those who are watching on Twitch can watch me work on the game a little bit. And then to wrap up, there's a scenario in the book as well, but we won't necessarily go to that. But to wrap up this section of talking about what is in the PDF available for you is some of the locations of Zena City. So as I was saying before, I normally, when it comes to writing games and designing games, I am of the inclination to say, hey, players as a table make up the world together. The most engaging world is the one that y'all have made. And that makes sense for small scale games and for personal stuff, but we do also understand that if we're going to be releasing a 200-page hardback book, that having a world guide in it is probably something people really want. And there are game players there that have different tastes to myself who would struggle to create a world to play from nothing and would prefer to have a guide. So I had a bit of a think and a bit of a look at games that had world guides in them that weren't like 70 pages at the front of the book that you were kind of implied that you needed to read before you could play the game at all. And instead of that, it's almost like an atlas at the back of the book that kind of really essentializes the different districts down to break them down into what the vibe is going on there, some of the people and places that are there, and some of the prompts that you can get. So we've got this artwork here, also done by Jess Heron. Jess, largely a character artist, but she was really up for designing a background that evoked a character unto itself. What if a location was a character? So she really went into designing this snapshot of Adagio Street with that kind of like brief in mind. And oh my god, she fucking nailed it. Look at this, it's amazing, but yes, it's got a bunch of initial prompts of like the sights and sounds. I really wanted to be a bit more experimental and not necessarily poetic, but getting in there of like, these are the feelings you can get. We're hitting our 5 senses as we go to this location. These are the senses we'll experience. Then a couple of paragraphs about what the place is like in general, like almost like a guidebook style explanation, and then some summaries of some notable locations and notable people. And I initially had like a little, in a very Mythic Bastion land kind of way, a non-bulleted list of just a bunch of things you could find. Because that style of layout is something that does quite happen in games like in OSR games like this, but it was kind of raised by the editor. It's wonderful to be able to work with an editor who can kind of raise these things and have you look at them different. That it was quite difficult to navigate, so it became a bit of a roll table of sorts where you can draw a card from the deck and then use that as a prompt for what kind of stuff is going to be in the location. Adagio Street in particular. Yes, I also love how these spreads came out. I think they work really well. They're very evocative. They feel guidebooky in the way that sits really nicely. Yes, Adagio Street in particular being the home base of the House of Starfall, because you want to be able to get all of their bits and pieces clear and readable in the book. But also a thing that I wanted to do with Adagio Street, because it is essentially the entertainment district of Zena City, to look at it like how one would look at an entertainment district in real life. So that is not just nightclubs, but also gambling facilities, and it's also a red light district. Like all big cities, all cities that have had a historical culture to them with an entertainment district, sex work is part of that space, and I didn't want to shy away from that by any stretch. It's not the kind of game where I would be lavishly exploring it, but to just kind of highlight that it exists in the world in a way that's non-judgmental was a thing I really wanted to make clear. Historically a red light district, it's always been open to those who've had a past or present incompatible with the traditional 9 to 5. Just that small bit there to make it feel A, real, and B, acknowledging the realities of what a city is actually like. This is a vibrant place that has had lots of people work in it and find homes in it, but it's also got elements to it that are difficult to navigate. Sex work is real work and should be respected as real work, but it's also dangerous work. And part of the stuff that the House of Starfall might have to do is making sure that the people who perform sex work in on their turf are looked after and happy and healthy and are not abused. It's part of that. Because I needed to. It was just in my blood that I needed to have a Yakuza reference for Adagio Street. We have Misora Misty Sakaguchi, who is basically just a Yakuza boss who exists illness and could potentially continue to run into the House of Starfall and sometimes clash over ideals, was the thing I just needed to have there. I don't want to have a campaign that goes all in on sex themes, but it'd be weird to me if sex work doesn't exist. Exactly that. And one of the other locations that we have in the text is the Palace, which we don't have artwork for in the pre-release guide, but there will be artwork for in the finished product. Once again, kickstarting in September. Keep an eye out for it. Ooh. In fact, let me go and while we're doing this, let me go and link you to the mailing list that's available. can type my own URL correctly, I hope. Yeah, there we go. We have a sketch. Oh, I didn't know. I need to go check the sketch. Hell yeah. But yes. Would you like, if you'd like to say that, if you'd like to keep abreast of the circumstances of this game and be notified when Kickstarter is entering and just other general updates about the game, you can head to that URL right there, or go to cityofespersrpg.com and sign up for the mailing list. But yes, the Palace is one other location that we've got in our pre-release guide. This is the Central District, kind of inspired by Tokyo Palace, which is genuinely a period castle surrounded by a moat in the middle of Tokyo. The Palace is a similar instance where it is actually used to be the palace grounds of an ancient ruler, but has since been turned into the sports stadium music hall. It is where the Esper battle tournament would be going down, if that's the kind of like campaign arc that you're running. But it's also just a really big and busy place. It is the Victory Road, the location of the Elite Four of this city. It is the smack dab in the center, and so as a result, it has its own kind of grand, but also kind of grimy to it. Yes. There's additional pages in this document that kind of go in, that have example character sheets and a scenario that you can play, but we won't go into that for now. We'll leave that for you to be able to look at on your own time. We'll be moving, in fact, into some space for some Q&A. So if people have additional questions about the game, what it is now, clarifying rules, what the game might have in the future, have a think about those and type those into chat so I can answer them for y'all, because I'd love to answer some questions about this game for people who have questions. In the meantime, though, I might show y'all some behind the scenes bits, as it were. We're gonna go and do this. This. Yes. Our front cover. Some of these art pieces are gonna look hyper saturated. That's because they are color graded to be designed for print, and so digitally look a lot more vivid than they would actually be physically. But this was kind of like this is in a way that you can fully see the main cover. The layout work for the night is done, so no worries. Thanks for hanging with us, y'all. Have a good evening. We'll chat about what we've got next in the docket soon. But yes, really love the cover of this. As I say, continue to gush about the design that Isa has done for this. Really wanted to kind of be like, okay, we need a city in the background. We want it to look obviously a little bit unclear as to where we are, but the architecture that we've got here definitely evokes much more historical architecture, like we're in a Rome, a Prague. But the outfits of everybody are really contemporary, and I think that's a really nice contrast. I think the fact that it's at night makes them all look much more dramatic, rather than a kind of like a cute girls doing cute things kind of anime brightness. I love that we get to see everybody kind of demonstrating their powers on the front. I love Corvus and Nyx up in the corner. This is actually the initial sketches that Issa did of the cast of the House of Starfall, when we were kind of like, really cementing character designs and color schemes and things like that. It was quite late in the game that we decided that there would be kind of like a midnight blue or off black and red would be the kind of like prevailing theme of House of Starfall. It's come together really nicely across this cast. The initial Lyra was the first design of everybody, and I did like a pencil drawing of like the outfit that she was wearing. I'm like, she's got the torn shorts, she's got like the varsity jacket, but with the kind of like sports bra underneath, so you can kind of see that she's toned. One of the things I was kind of like, yes, she is a youthful Korean woman, which kind of sits in the kind of like, oh yes, East Asian pop culture is a cast on the tone of this. We understand that. But also, I didn't want her to be waifish. I wanted it to be obvious that she is a martial artist. And the way that the different artists have been specifically being like, girl has muscles, she can kick your ass, has been so good, so good. I love the speaker knuckle duster that Issa's given her. Hell yeah, so good. I took a couple of like shots. We've seen some of the artwork that Donald Kirby's done. I'm a really big fan of Bijou's art. The like goth clown big stripy shirt that he's wearing to kind of give the circusy theatery element, but also like, ooh, I've got a bandolier of bullets as my belt. I'm like a Kingdom Hearts character. It's such a good blend. He looks so cocky, but his profile highlights that is actually all for show and he's really shy. Likewise, Horologium. The process of just being like, yeah, Horologium has a robot head helmet that they wear to kind of hide their face when they're kind of out doing Esper bits and pieces, because they're trying to keep their personal life and their kind of like a psychic pop star life separate from each other. And I'm jealous. I also want a cool robot helmet. So and yes, as highlighted before, the Donald Kirby version of Lyra, where he's drawn her super muscular, so sick, so good. Alongside Ursa, and yes, a bit of promo art I did. So I play a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I do a handful of conventions in the UK. So because I had some UK cons to do in November when we were doing a physical promo of the book, I specifically wanted to have like something that people could buy, take away with them. So I was like, oh, since I'm designing Magic the Gathering tokens to sell anyway, let me go and design one of Lyra and have that as like a promotional item, but also as a practical thing that they can use. People really liked the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set, and that had hero tokens in it. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go and make a one hero token for Lyra. So I drew and inked this myself. As I say, I'm continuing to improve my journey of being an artist, but like I still I'm very happy with this. I think it's probably one of the best pieces that I've personally drawn. But it's not a brush on the commissioned artwork we had from our fabulous artists. But this was really fun to draw as a kind of bonus piece. I might do a wallpaper version of this as well and make it available to the public for just free, so you can have Lyra from House of Starfall on your desktop. But that, ladies, gentlemen, friends and enemies, esteemed guests, is the end of my presentation. So we've looked through the full, well, not full. Some of the we kept a couple pages secret that are available to you to look at. We've looked through the pre-release PDF for City of Espers. As I say, City of Espers is available as a pre-release PDF for pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG. If you would like to go and get a copy yourself, it's very easy to do so. I already have it pinned in chat, but you can also go over to here. It is in the doobly-doo, where you can go check it out for yourself, give it a read, play it with your friend group, and let me know what you think, because I'm always interested to hear about how the kind of house design that people do and how people have got on in the process of playing this game. If you'd like to go and see how the game is played, you can also do that. There is a playlist available on my YouTube channel, which is here. Wow, auto playing. I should have had this queued up in advance. I'm a There we go. If you'd like to go and see how the game is played, we have a two-part actual play designed to be condensed. So for people who aren't really used to watching actual play, the entire thing runs a little under 4 hours in total. The first half is a lot of the basic rules. The second half is a lot more of the complicated action rules, but it tells a really good story across those two parts. Really easy to get through and watch and understand how the game is played. Played with some really fabulous performers, including Sheila, who is currently in chat. So please do check both of those out. I still have time for... It's tons of fun, I agree. I still have time to go and answer some Q&A. If people have any questions that they would like me to answer about the game, both in its current form and what might be coming up in the future, you have time to come and ask me. So please do ask me some questions. Even if you know the answer already, you could still entirely ask me. You've asked all the questions already. Absolutely, absolutely. Extremely amused that my character from that session ended up in a similar orbit to Ursa. True. No, it's fine. It's fine. You do not. I'm not going to make people ask me questions. It's all good. Hey, you know, I'm interrupting is not a problem at all. I was more than happy to answer questions as we went. And please do check out the actual play. It is a real good time. In that case, I would say class is dismissed. What we're going to go and do is that we're going to take a 5, possibly 10-minute break for me to go and get some water and rest my voice for a little bit. And then when we get back, we're just going to do a chill, working on some of the documents. If you want to see some of the bits and pieces that are going to be in the full game, and even want to kind of have a hand in steering some of the bits and pieces, you can even give some suggestions. But we'll see everybody in 10. We'll see everybody in 10. See you in a bit.